All right, so let's begin working on that arm. So let's click on this, and we're gonna have a few things to set up in the viewport first. And so I'm going to remove the scene root once again by adding in a scene. Let's call it root, and then drop this in. That gets rid of the 2D icon. Let's add in first the, what is it called, a rod. You can call it like a rod base. That rod base is this thing here, which I can't find. So I'm gonna disable show engine content, and it should be this one. There you go. And then compile. Let's add in, as a child, I think is fine. Let's add in another static mesh. This is gonna be the arm body, let's just say, right? Or just the arm, whatever, because it's just called the arm. There you go. So basically you can see this is going to rotate on the x-axis. I think the maximum is going to be like 75, otherwise it's going to hit the floor or intersect with the floor, and it's just going to go up to 0, and then it's going to push out the pin, and that's going to be another mesh, so static mesh. So arm, what's it called? Arm pin or something, or arm point. Let's see what it's called. Arm tip. Okay, it's called arm tip then. Okay, let's compile this and give it some colors. So let's say this one is going to be white. So showing engine content once again, basic. And I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's fine. Let's make this one orange then. And click on this, and let's make this orange as well. Yep, I think that's fine. Let's compile and save this. All right, so I just kind of want to figure out the positioning of our arm, and let's just set this to the maximum extended position, which is going to be in the Y. So I think it was like, so I think maybe 10. So that's the maximum. I'm going to save this, and then let's just make our lid invisible. So let's call it visible. In that case, maybe we should just select this, or let's take the lid, and I'm going to select the lid here and visibility. So I'm going to uncheck this for now. I need to position this thing here. And so obviously we need to rotate this like the other one in Z, so 180, and 0 in X. Okay, and then I'm thinking it's probably around here, so 5, and then let's lower it down. Now I'm going to see where it intersects. Maybe it's the front view. Yep. So yeah, I think that looks good. Maybe 2. I think that's fine. Maximum extended position. And the tricky thing is we're going to have to like somehow match the animation speed so it doesn't really intersect. But yeah, I think this is going to be okay for now. Let's bring it back to the perspective, and let's bring this to 0. I'm just also going to test the rotation. So I think let's do 83. Yeah, I think that's perfectly right there. This is going to be the closed position. All right, so let's bring back the perspective view. It's going to look like that. And let's bring back the lid, compile, save, clear that out, and we can get started with the programming in the event graph. All right, so for the arm, it's going to be a 2-stage animation. Actually, could be 3-staged, but for now it is 2-staged, where the first thing is a rotation, and then the second thing is the pin coming out to flick the switch off. And I would also guess that this is where most of the bugs will be induced when we try some edge cases, as there's like different steps to it, and we need to also look at different conditions if the arm can move or not. And so it's going to be quite tricky. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these two, And I just remembered that since we're not using event tick on these things, it is better to go into class defaults and disable start tick with enabled to save some performance. So if you remember, tick is something that runs every frame, right? So this one we need it because we're using tick, but switch and lid we're not. So let's go into class defaults, untick that, compile save, and then let's do the same thing for arm. Great. And let's take our graph and remember what we have. So these are functions, but I'm gonna use events instead. So move to turn off and retract to rest position. So once again, do custom event, and I think it's called move to turn off. And we can just do Control D to duplicate this and F2 to rename. And I think it's called retract to rest position. There you go. All right, so I would guess it's like the lid, first of all, for the rotation. I think we probably will just copy the logic here. So I'm gonna copy all this, so Control C and V this, and then let's connect this up. So if you see this gray thing, it means that this variable does not exist in this class. So right click and create variable, lid open, and we just rename this to arm protracted, I guess. I think the inverse of retract is protraction. I'm not sure about that, but let's just call it arm protracted. Is that okay? Let me just check Google for now. Okay, so it seems that it's not protracted, but it's extended. So let's do arm extended, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so that's fine. Timeline is going to be arm anim. And just like the other one, arm anim. And I think we can probably do like set play rate to 3, perhaps, or random value, which we can use later. And the first thing is we need to set our arm rotation. We're just going to start from 83 and go to 0. Yep, so this one definitely we're going to need the lerp. Disconnect that, put it in here. So at the 0 point, we start at 83. And at 1, in terms of here, it's going to be at 0. And maybe we can just give it a more extreme thing here. Or maybe let's make it different. So do that and then do the reverse, which can look cool. Let's just see. Take the arm and we're going to set its relative rotation. Same thing, it should be in the x-axis. So let's go and split struct fin here. Connect with the x-axis and then put it on update. All right, so right. Now here I'm going to leave some space because we need the second stage of the animation, which is the arm tip moving forward into, I think it was 10 or minus 10, yeah. Okay, and for that we need to check arm extended is true. So if arm extended is true, only when the animation finishes and it's in the side where we're moving towards the switch. So this one, arm extended is true. We're going to run the next animation. So let's just duplicate this. And this one, we can probably do play from start. And the difference is that if you use play from start, when we're in the middle of the sequence, if we trigger this again, it's just going to jump back to the start of the timeline. And it might look not so nice. So let's take this. I'm sure that didn't make sense, but I don't really know how to explain it, to be honest. I'm just going to rename this first. So tip anim. Because this one is just going to, right, it's just going to go out and back, right? And so this actually should, I think, be 0.5, and add another point and make that 0, and then 1. So as you can see, it's just gonna move forward and come back. And that should be okay. And this one, we're also gonna use lerp. Instead of rotation now, we're going to mess with its Y position. So I think it was 0 to -10. And if we go back here, the arm tip, -10, yep. So let's bring in the arm tip, set its relative location, update, and let's split struct pin, and it's gonna be Y. And this should work in theory. And for the same thing, we need to also do this. So tip, get tip anim, disconnect with alt click. I'm going to do this, and let's make this one way faster, like 4. All right, so the question now is, how do we trigger this? And so the lids is going to need the reference to the arms, so we're going to need to make a new variables, just like before. So BP arm, and it's going to be of type VP arm. There you go. So not to get confused, you don't really need to do it like that. Just do arm. It's fine. And again, make this exposed on the level. And then obviously we need to pass in the arm variable or reference through here. So you can just do that. So now it has a reference. And now lid has access to the arm. So just like here, we need to give it access. Okay. So for the lid, just like before, I would say that we should use this one here. So if this ends and if it's true, lid open is true, we need to get the VP arm to move to turn off. Right, yeah. Let's drag this out and do move to turn off. And I can already see that there's going to be an issue when we're jamming the switch button. There's going to be a problem for sure. So rest position to false. So obviously it means that when we're closing the lid, right, actually this is not the right order. Because if you remember here, so the lid calling the arm is fine, but after the retract to rest position, we need to set it to close. So actually, we're not going to do it here, but let's just compensate this. We need to give the arm the reference to the lid. So let's call it lid here. Let's set it type of VP lid, object reference, make that exposed, and let's compile and save this. Go back into the arm and let's select the lid from the list, save this. And for this one, right. So after that, we finish, and after this thing finishes, we can call the lid. And we can let it close lid, sorry. Okay, fingers crossed this is gonna work. I think it will work if we don't jam the button, but if we do jam the button, it's gonna get messed up completely. Oh wait, this is gonna be messed up. Yeah, for sure. Yep, as you can see, it doesn't work. All right, so that wraps up the arm movement. Now it seems like something's wrong, but actually it's my fault. We actually shouldn't have been testing it because we haven't finished building the whole system, right? And so we have some missing parts. And that is going to be when the tip moves out and it intersects with the switch. That needs to trigger a switch off, and then that calls the arm to retract to its rest position. That's why right now it's just stood up because we don't have that call. And then the lid comes down and intersects. And after the arm goes down, we're supposed to be calling the close lid, right? And that completes the full loop of the system. And so we're going to be working on that in the next chapter. So if you want to keep learning, click on the next video.